The NYC subway system. In its 119-year history, straphangers went from tickets to tokens to mastering the swipe. In 1999, the MetroCard vending machine was introduced and has since become a beloved, iconic part of New York's visual identity. 24 years on, the MTA announced the debut of a new OMNY vending machine. OMNY, poised as the next-generation fare system, allows riders to tap their way to their next destination. As the city prepares to say goodbye to a machine that has served millions, we wanted to know, how did something designed in the 90s withstand the test of time? And New York.
So vending machines for fare payments are not new to the MetroCard vending machine. There were token vending machines that were introduced in the 50s and also another type in the 1960s, and they weren't as successful as the Transit Authority would have hoped them to be. People complained that they liked talking to the booth clerk when they bought their tokens. And it was also, in a practical sense, the machines would sometimes run out of tokens, they would jam up and wouldn't accept coins, so they want to try and speed up the process with better turnstiles and a more efficient way of paying for the subway. MetroCards are introduced in 1993. In 1994, the automatic fare collection turnstiles start appearing in subway stations, and by 1997, they're in every subway station.
At this point, the MTA had also purchased a prototype vending machine manufactured by Cubic in 1996. But
it has a rather awkward layout. People didn't understand how to use it. They also thought machine was kind of menacing.
To address a machine that no one wanted to use, the MTA commissioned the co-founders of Antenna Design, Masamichi Udagawa and Sigi Moeslinger, to solve the problem.
People weren't familiar with touchscreen. iPhone came out 2007, that made the touchscreen a household thing. But before that, especially in New York, 50% of subway riders back in '96 didn't have bank account. So they didn't have experience with ATMs.
Using equipment in public space is a very different experience than when you sit at home in front of your computer. In the public, people step up to a machine and they know somebody is probably standing behind them, waiting as well, watching you, and so you feel observed. So people get nervous.
The designers began by brainstorming with two different mental models, the soda machine model and the store model.
If you think about transaction sequence, first thing you do with a machine is to insert money, and then you pick a product. But the problem in New York back then was often these machines are broken. Everyone hated soda machine model because it asks you to put the money first. The second candidate was simply the store model. Nobody pays upon entering the store. You first enter the store, check out the product, check the price, build up the confidence, and then finally decide to pay.
Once the store model had proven itself to be the one that people unanimously favored, we then tried to see if we can apply that in the way we sequence out the interaction. So that's how we ended up with asking one question per screen, because when you talk to somebody, you don't ask 5 questions at once and then expect all these 5 answers. We actually had some pushback there because in this way we ended up with a bit more screens. People felt more screens takes longer, but the opposite was true, and we could prove that. If your sort of cognitive load is very small, there are just a few things that you have to look at, the decision making is much quicker because you don't need to first stand there, read everything, and then try to decide what it is decision you want to make. One of the things that made the machine more approachable is the sort of cheerful colored bezels.
We decided to introduce the color to group-related hardware or cash-related things was grouped with this large green bezel. Green, obviously, there's a connotation, the American dollar, greenbacks. Back then, major financial institutions, they happened to use blue, so the cards are blue. Then the red for the change and the ticket. That's more alarming color, and obviously yellow for the MetroCard itself. So it just kind of fell into the place. It turns out it's rather difficult to make these colors really strong. So what we ended up using is rather old technique for making pots and pans, porcelain enamel. That turned out to be really durable, even though it was rather difficult to manufacture. After 24 years, it seems our choice was correct.
In terms of the interface and getting people to make the first step, that was also not such a straightforward process. Initially, we had a sticker above the screen that said touch screen to start, and people never read things like that. They just ignored it. So then we moved it onto the screen, and some more people got it. So then we created basically a fake button that says touch start to begin, and that gave people a very specific target. Suddenly it was much clearer that, okay, that's what I have to do. Even though to this date you can touch anywhere on the screen to get started. And then there were still some people who didn't quite get that point either. And that's when sort of the animated finger came in pointing at the start button. And then we more or less got everybody to understand this.
Then became a sort of in-service test or pilot. That's the January of '99, basically introduction of the machine to the public. It was a really exciting time because we have never done anything for the public space. And this is New York, and this is subway system, which is a bit wild. For us, MetroCard vending machine project was a really educational, adventurous project. Of course, we are designing objects, but ultimately what we are designing is people's behavior.
I think it's really felt like a privilege to have this machine around for so long and see it and using it ourselves for many, many years. That's quite rewarding. Suddenly it's sort of sad that this is coming to an end. But I think that's also the cycle of technology, that there are certain things that become obsolete, and in a way it is quite miraculous that it has stayed as long as it did.
The MVMs, their absence is going to change people's routines a little bit for a period of time, but then when the OMNY vending machines take their place, they'll have a new routine. Nobody knows what the future will hold, but looking back in our system, it is how the system stays current and tells people, you live in a modern city.